We have pod daddies, we have hooch daddies, and we have ignorant mofos that need to be voted out of the H unit. Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole giving you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. And this is my review on Unlocked, a Jail Experiment, Season 1, Episodes 4 through 6. So they're kicking out Miller, and the other inmates are saying that they're glad that Miller is gone because he only cared about himself and he was trying to get the program shut down. Mind you, no one is taking responsibility for bullying Miller. Miller made that pokey because he felt like he had no choice, and he was either trying to find a way to get out of the H unit, or if anything went down, he wanted to make sure he could protect himself because he can't fight. So the sheriff decides it was only Miller that was the problem. And so because of that, they will continue the program. I don't know if Sheriff Higgins and the CO see everything on the cameras, but in my opinion, if they saw what we saw, they would understand why Miller did what he did. Randy is trying to act like he's the Huey P. Newton and Malcolm X of the pod, and he's now saying they need to build each other up versus tearing each other down and come together as a community. You know what I'm saying? Power to the people. He did bring them together for the sake of this Thug Life pizza. He called it Thug Life pizza. In my opinion, it looked like chitlins. I don't know what the hell they was eating. And I don't blame Tiny, because Tiny was like, that shit looked nasty and I want no parts of it. I agree, Tiny. I agree. So he does make this pizza. He's teaching the youngins how to make the pizza. And he brings everyone together and says, if you guys all want to bite, dig in. And so it seems to work, that this pizza brought them together. So I'm going to give you some kudos, Randy, but I know some ignorance is coming soon. But we do see that they are trying to educate themselves. They're in Bible study. And I love seeing that because it shows that they can do something productive in their lives while they're in jail versus making hooch and playing chess. But one of the main issues in the H unit are the phones. Not having money for the phones, or the phones are not working. So we're hearing stories about how a lot of them don't have funds to make calls and they can't reach out to family, attorneys, probation officers. So because they have been following the rules, or at least that's what they see is that they're following the rules, Sheriff Higgins wants to give them free phone calls because it helps the inmates and the environment in the H unit. But of course, they're worried about how people will take advantage of the phones and hoarding the phones, or even trying to chin check people over the phones and things like that. But the sheriff is like, we have to do something. We have to give them more privileges outside of just having the doors open. So one of the COs puts the rules on the wall about the free calls, and the inmates lose their shit. Because, of course, free stuff makes people want to fight, even if they don't need it. Poet, aka Willie, gets into it with one of the guys. His name is Skies, because Skies just wanted to flex on the phone, while Poet is like, look, I'm trying to handle some business. I'm trying to reach my lawyer before the office close. And they go back and forth and pretty much is like, F you, F that, I dare you. You want to sit up there and do something about it. And so it creates a lot of tension. They was just vibing over chitlin pizza. Now all of a sudden, they literally are fighting over the phone. So Randy is like, come on, y'all, we got to do better. So they create a list And they, I guess, put their names down on the list. And once you get your 15 minutes, they can move on to the next person. And that puts a smile on my face because you can tell that they're really trying to make peace. And Randy, I have to give him his props. He actually seems like he's really stepping up right now. And Skies goes to Willie and apologizes to him about the phone situation and says, look, I can tell you going through something. My bad, bro. And they squash it. But then Randy turns his attention to Chauncey, thinking that Chauncey is going to be a problem in the unit. This is a young man. He's only 20 years old. He has 6 charges against him. And I want to say that he is looking at a life sentence because of those 6 charges, or maybe he had some previous charges before. He really wants to work on computers and gaming and YouTube, but he's just upset with life right now, naturally, because he messed up. So he just seems like he doesn't give a F, and he's causing, I guess, a lot of problems in the unit. And so Randy tries to talk to him. And does he want to hear it? No, Chauncey doesn't want to hear it because his mindset is we're all in here together. So if you knew what you was talking about, you wouldn't be in here. And while I understand his point, maybe the old heads are just trying to give you wisdom so you don't end up like them. Tiny is pulling on my heartstrings trying to connect with his son, and it bothers him because every time he calls, there's a busy signal. And you can tell he's hurt and he's like talking to someone about it. And they're like, look, bro, you doing all you can. Don't worry about it. But that hurt turns into frustration. Tiny helps with the food trays one day. And when you help, you're supposed to get an extra tray for yourself, meaning more food. But I guess they're not obligated to give them more trays, meaning the COs, the jail is not obligated. It's just a courtesy. But when Tiny finds out he's not getting the extra tray, homie flips out. He's like, I didn't work for free. F this, F that. And Randy is trying to tell him, like, look, it's just my job to make sure everyone gets a tray. It's not my job to make sure we have extra trays. And so at that point, Tiny is still going off. And he was like, F you, Randy. This is your department. You owe me. And when you tell someone in jail, you owe me, those are fighting words. So the next thing you know, Randy walks over to Tiny, steps up in Tiny's face. They go back and forth. Randy decides to take one of Tiny's head. Child, Randy is lucky Tiny didn't have his favorite toy, the Pokey. And luckily, one of the youngest decided to break it up between the old heads who were supposed to be the role models. But again, it clearly wasn't about the tray. Tiny is upset because he can't get to his son. He finally is able to have free phone calls and he can't reach his son. Big Mel, who is Randy's roommate, says that Randy is a good dude and they actually are from the same neighborhood, but he has a problem with Randy because Randy wants to run stuff in the jail. And so Big Mel tells him, stop worrying about everyone else and just worry about yourself and mind your business. They calling you Pod Daddy up in this mofo because you in everyone's business. And so Randy seems like he's confused and he's like, whose business am I in? So at this point, he's so disturbed by the information he's told by Big Mel, he starts going to a lot of people, mainly old heads, asking everyone if he's always in people's business. All of them say no. Now, at this point, it could be that they are talking behind his back and they just don't want to say anything. Or Big Mel feels that way and he just wants to say everyone is saying this about you. Because Big Mel don't like the fact that Randy feels like he's running stuff. That's his issue. My whole thing is, why the hell do you care, Randy? He cares too much. And it starts to bother him to the point where he wants to start flexing his muscles with the youngins. The youngins are watching cartoons. Randy decides to turn off what they're watching. And Chauncey, the young guy he talked to earlier, says, look, man, we was watching cartoons. He was like, you watched that mess last night. It's our turn now. Mind you, it's only Randy who wants to watch TV. This is not a majority decision. It's just only Randy. Randy, in my opinion, wanted to punk the youngins at that time. Chauncey, being the immature kid that he is, decides to tease Randy, and Randy is not feeling it. He's like, get your fat ass in your cell, and Chauncey keeps teasing him. Next thing you know, Randy runs up on Chauncey, and Chauncey easily looks like he's about 280. Randy is shorter than him. Randy got muscles now, but Randy is shorter than him. Randy literally does this wrestling move, drags Chauncey into his cell, and all you hear is this tussling. And pretty much Randy does at that point turn into Pod Daddy. Get your ass in that cell before I whoop you. Chauncey's telling him to chill out. And Chauncey comes out of the cell looking like he about to cry because he looks so hurt that Randy just roughed him up like that and he couldn't do anything about it. So at that point, Randy's like, look, don't say nothing else to me. I'm telling you right now, please leave me alone. Mind your business. Randy sits down, watches TV, but the youngins are over Randy. They all looking at him like, we about to get you, because they tired of the fact that he's just bullying people when he doesn't get his way. Tiny finally gets to speak to his son, and I love that scene so much. And I love that the son is still so respectful of Tiny, saying, yes, sir, I love you too, because a lot of kids, of course, resent their parents who are not there for them. And it was just such a touching moment. And it made Tiny calm down. And it looked like he wanted to actually cry happy tears. It really warms my heart to see Tiny in that way. Randy decides at this point on, because of all of the drama and everyone calling him Pod Daddy, allegedly, he said he's going to step back and he's not going to help anymore and allow people to do them. And so he said it's going to prove that it's not just him, it's all of them. And then the episode goes off. Episode 5, The Fire and Hooch. We get introduced to Daniel, aka Crooks, because he pretty much says that everything is crooked from head to toe, his teeth, his eyebrows, all of that stuff. But he reminds me of a WWF, WWE wrestler. Like, his energy is just like on 1,000 when he's talking to the camera. He's just hyped, and he wants everyone to know that he's a bad, bad man. We find out he's been an addict since he was 13, and he lost his father in a very tragic way when he was young, and he admitted that he blamed everyone, including God, but he sobered up and realized that, that wasn't the life for him. Then we get introduced to Don Don. And Don Don and AJ are like besties in there. And I love that. So I'm going to call them Ebony and Ivory. Don Don decides to call his family because he only has a $1,000 cash bond. And if they have the money, they can get him out of jail. So he calls his sister, and she's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, okay, you got $1,000 bond. Well, I'm sorry, but I need to get some new tires for my car. And he's like, come on now, sissy. And she's like, look, I'm not all in anymore because you disappointed me. She explains that she was there for him the last time, sent him money every week, but when he got out of jail, he never thanked her. He didn't even come to see her, and she's disappointed. I'm sure we all can relate to her in some kind of way, where people just constantly, take you for granted, especially family, because they assume because you're family, you're always going to forgive them and be there for them. So at that point, Donna's like, come on now, sissy. Like, I wouldn't do you like this. And so at that point, she's like, look, I'm done. At this point, I need you to get your life together. I need you to get off of that stuff. And I don't know what to tell you. So she hangs up the phone, and Don Don plays victim because he's saying his blood is mistreating him, and he cries in his cell. Not even taking into consideration what she said. He just wants to play victim. The food trays come, and Randy continues to step back, and we see that people took more food than what they were supposed to take, more trays, and not because they were hungry, because they want to use the ingredients to make hooch. So, because of that, some didn't eat, including a minor, which is mandatory by law that he eats 3 meals per day. So, because of that, one of the COs comes in and starts to regulate about, how this minor didn't eat. And Don, who was actually handing out the food trays that day, he's already mad at his sister. He goes off on the CO because the CO said don't allow him to do the trays anymore. So he flipping out on the girl, which was totally disrespectful. And she was ready to spray him up. She had her hand on her hip and she was like, you try me and you just said me one more time, I'ma spray you. Randy is just sitting back looking at all of this unfold. And this is when the youngins say, oh, there's no more Pod Daddy? There's no more Randy telling us what to do? So they start to act the damn fool. Eastside creates a fire to light a wick. He at first uses a pair of glasses, I believe, but that doesn't work. And then he uses batteries so he can create a fire to use it to smoke coffee sticks, to create tattoo ink, and to smoke other substances that they smuggled in. Apparently they had about 5 different rooms, smoke rooms. They was lighting up. And next thing you know, the fire alarm goes off. Damn idiots. Episode 6, The Vote. These fools are high as hell, don't even know where the alarm is coming from, and one CO comes in and does a shakedown and finds the wicks. He writes up a report and he pretty much says, it's up to the sheriff on how they're going to move forward. Well, the sheriff at that point, I guess, read that report and said, we about to shake these mofos down with a team. They literally bring in a team of people and they tell them, take off your clothes, bend over and cough. They check their books. They check every nook and cranny in their cells. They find a hooch, of course. They find the youngins' hooch and squirrel's hooch. They find pills and they shut them down in their cells for 24 hours. The inmates are pissed off, and I don't know why, because I'm like, you're the reason why you're on lockdown again. The sheriff decides to come in before the 24-hour lockdown, though, and says, we're going to do an anonymous vote, and we're going to see who's really causing the problems in the H unit. So pretty much he's telling them that they're going to do silent snitching. And so at that point, he said, I should shut this program down because you guys have failed. And he was like, or we can do a reset. And of course, the guys are like, reset, let's do a reset. He was like, okay, we'll do a reset, but you're still on lockdown for 24 hours. Tiny is frustrated and worried because he was supposed to call his son, but now they're on lockdown. Tiny, the first thing he wants to do is run to the phone to call his son. They open up the doors and Tiny is able to do just that, to speak to his son. However, AJ, who has a mental health disability, the lockdown really got to him and he has to go to the hole to be on watch, if you know what I mean. And I don't think the hole is the best option for him. Like, we have to find a better way to deal with mental health in America. They have an H unit meeting about doing better and voting people out for the people who continue to mess up and break the rules. However, some of the people who were saying they need to vote people out need to vote themselves out. But they end up doing the vote, and some of them claim they didn't put a name on the paper. I think they're lying. And then a lot of people kept saying that Randy, aka True Story, was going to be the main one voted out because they don't like him. And Randy feels that because he says in his confessional, all eyes on me. And as soon as he said that and he mentioned the Thug Life pizza earlier, there have been people in my comments saying that he looks like Tupac and sounds like Tupac. I don't know if he's related to Tupac, but to me, just saying those two things, he's probably just a big Tupac fan. So at that point, the episode goes off and we don't know who's going to get voted off. I give all of these episodes a solid B. Still really good episodes. But I like the balance of these episodes. You still had your drama, but you still had really good heartfelt scenes, especially dealing with people's families. So with that being said, what did you guys think about these episodes? Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on my next video. Toodles.